All right, guys, so we got to talk about a viral exchange between woke Berkeley law professor Miss Khiara Bridges and Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri. Josh Hawley, whom I am a big fan of, okay? I actually think that he should run for president. Maybe, if not 2024, definitely, 2028, 2032, whatever, right? I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind Josh Hawley, Ron DeSantis, Trump. Those would be my top three, okay? But with that being said, they got in a viral exchange as Congress is having a hearing following the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the legal issues associated with Roe v. Wade being overturned. And this conversation, this exchange between this woke law professor and Josh Hawley went off the rails when Josh Hawley asked this law professor, what does she mean when she refers to the gender neutral term of like pregnant people? And basically, does she believe that only women can get pregnant? And I want you guys to watch this exchange because this woman truly does melt down in response to Josh Hawley asking her this question. Take a look.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all of the witnesses for being here. Before I want to visit with you, Ms. Metsky, but before I do, I just want to clear one thing up. Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning? So we can't talk about it?
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist
I'm
is
denying
dangerous.
that trans people exist by asking you if you're talking about women having pregnancies?
Do you believe that men can get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can get
So you are
pregnant.
denying that trans people exist?
And that leads to violence? Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you?
Absolutely.
Or are they also treated like this, where
No,
they're told that they're opening up people to violence?
We have a good time in my class. You should join.
Oh, I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot just in this exchange.
Absolutely.
Extraordinary.
Yep.
Ms. Metsky, let me ask you something.
Yeah, Mr. Hawley, incredible is the word that I like to use, okay, or fascinating. The way that he used the word extraordinary is the same exact way that I use the word fascinating or incredible when seeing or hearing leftist lunacy, because that's exactly what this is. And I hate these exchanges. And the reason why is because this is how people get banned. This is how people lose their livelihoods, okay? These women, right, or people like her, put it that way, right? Because I can't really call her a woman. We don't really know what a woman is. I'm going to call her a person, right? People like her and their tendency to accuse people of violence or to deny somebody's existence because somebody simply disagrees with them on what is a biological fact, really, to be quite honest with you. Again, that's how people get banned, right? That's how people lose their livelihoods, okay? Even though the disagreement has nothing to do with violence. The disagreement has nothing to do with denying that trans people do, in fact, exist. There are people out here who, are trans and identify by the opposite gender or whatever, right? Josh Hawley's not denying that simply because he's saying that I don't believe that men, which what he really means is biological men, I don't believe that biological men can get pregnant. There's a reason why when we talk about trans people, you always put the label trans, right, in front of the gender, right? Trans woman, trans man. The reason why is because it is important to distinguish that what we're talking about, the person that we're talking about here, is not a biological man or woman. That's why you put the label trans in front of it, right? And what I think is actually really dangerous is when you try to take that away. When you're trying to say that, hey, for all intents and purposes, trans men are actually men, and implying that they are biological men, I think that's actually what was dangerous, okay? Because we're getting into the territory of, okay, well, how can we administrate healthcare when we know that women need a certain type of healthcare or men need a certain type of healthcare? If we truly are trying to treat trans men as biological men, then wouldn't her line of logic suggest that it is transphobic to treat trans men any different than we treat biological men, right? When we know obviously that you can't do that. That would put the life of the trans man in danger if we treated them medically or biologically as if they were actually biological men, okay? But again, instead of trying to engage in that debate, what they do to shut down debate is accuse you of being transphobic. They accuse you of violence. They accuse you of trying to harm somebody or denying somebody's existence, because that is a way to shut down debate. That is a way to not have the real conversation, an argument that she knows that she's going to lose. Because I've heard time and time again, ever since Roe v. Wade was overturned, that this is a women's rights issue and that men should not speak on this issue. Men shouldn't have a say on this, even though I disagree that biological men shouldn't have a say on this, because it takes a biological man to create a child, right? A biological man and a woman. It takes two people of the opposite sex to create children. I don't necessarily think that caring about an unborn child has anything to do with somebody's, sex or gender or whatever. But I'm just saying, if Josh Hawley is transphobic, then the whole Democrat Party has to be transphobic, because they've been telling us ever since Roe v. Wade was overturned that this is a women's rights issue, that men should not speak on this. That in fact, what they say is that, well, you have white men trying to exercise control over women's bodies, and that's not right. So what happened to all that, right? What happened to all that? Because if men can in fact get pregnant, which is what she's suggesting, then men should have a say, right, on this topic, right? According to their own logic, right? According to their own logic. But again, their logic doesn't make sense, because a lot of these people are living in a fantasy world. And what people got to realize is that we're not living in a fantasy world. We're living in reality, right? Yes, there are trans women and trans men that exist. There are people who want to identify by the opposite gender, right? And if they're adults and they want to do that and they want to live that life, I have no issues with that. No issues with that whatsoever. I might not necessarily agree with that lifestyle. I don't think we should be pushing on children, but I have no problems with adults who want to do what they want to do, okay? But, however, it becomes an issue when you start to organize society around that. You're trying to organize society around such a small group of individuals to the point where, again, we're going against the basics of reality and biology, and we can't do that, right? We can't have a functional society when we do that, okay? And saying that, that's not transphobic, that's not anti-trans, that's none of that. That's just pro-reality. That's pro-biology. Being pro-reality and biology is not anti-trans, right? But again, if these people want to make it out to be that, then hey, I guess that's just what it is, right? I guess if just believing in basic biological facts makes you transphobic, now I guess you're transphobic. Because again, I'm telling you, it's going to go as far as if you don't identify as trans, you're going to be transphobic, right? If you disagree with anything that these people say or believe, then you're transphobic. That's how far it's going to go. That's how far it's going to go, right? I mean, that's just what it is at this point. So kudos to Josh Hawley in regards to how he handled himself during this exchange, because this woman is off her rockers. And it really is a shame that we have women like this teaching at our major universities, right? I mean, she teaches at Berkeley Law, which is a pretty good school, right? It's like, how in the world is this possible? Again, it really blows my mind. It blows my mind the type of people that we've let in academia teach the youngest and smartest and brightest kids among us. Again, this is why, I'm losing hope for our future generations, because we're pushing them to go to college and to be indoctrinated into these liberal universities where they're not even adhering to reality anymore, right? It really is a shame. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.